I think the way you're moving days around doesn't make much sense to me because horses can only race once a week. So if there's a certain amount of horses that are only fitting for Friday and Saturday, they can't also race Tuesday and Wednesday. So I just don't just moving the less weeks and more days in the weeks. I don't know if that really solves their issue.
Okay, so take Pocono. They have every class from a 75 claimer, a 7,500 claimer to the Open. I'm not saying back in the day, Meadowlands used to have 15 claimers. That was their bottom level. When Pocono opens up in the beginning of April, right? A lot of those horses are, just starting back. But if they were offered because they can't race anywhere else, a lot of those horses don't want to race on a smaller track. Well, what if they had a place to race in March, in February, places to qualify, places to race? And where the purses were relatively similar, they would race at the Meadowlands. Everybody wants to race on the biggest track. Trainers want to race there, drivers want to race there, and owners want to win there. They don't want to race. It's a lot easier to race on a mile track than it is on a half mile track. That's agreed, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So if you give them the options, you're talking about there is plenty of options because where are the horses that are racing at Pocono, Philly? All these horses suddenly appear when Philly and Pocono open. Well, give them the opportunity to race at the Meadowlands February and March and January. They're not going to go away. People are going to want to race all winter long.
I just think the numbers, I'm just not confident that the numbers will be there with how much they'll be able to increase their purses. Because, I don't think realistically they're going to be able to run more race days and be competitive with Pocono and Yonkers purses. I think they could run their current race days and raise them enough to be competitive, but I don't know if they can do both. And that's an accountant game that I wouldn't know until I got to sit down with the Meadowlands and see what their books looked like.
But I'm saying directly, don't try to compete with Yonkers and Pocono. Again, it went once Philly and Pocono and they open up in beginning of April. Why are you trying to compete when everybody's going there? It makes it give them a little bit of a shine and a spotlight to say, listen, you guys, we're going to give you 6 weeks here. We're going to give you 6 weeks where you can open up, get in the flow of it. But from January to beginning of April, all the drivers, they're going to want to drive instead of going out to Hawthorne or going down to Florida. Where do they want to drive? They want to drive. I'm not talking about the top 5 guys that now take vacations.
So they'd still be competing with Yonkers, basically, because Yonkers, they only take like a 3 or 4 week break max.
Yeah, sure.
So their one competition is going to be Yonkers. So you said they're betting on the horses that don't want to race on a half mile track. That's who we're really going
absolutely.
for here. Okay, yeah. Gotcha.
There's going to be and take it even from November because Pocono's going to close this weekend. I think Philly's closed. So the weather's still good. I mean, it doesn't get bad until in the New York area. It really doesn't get bad until first couple weeks into January. So right now, all those horses in Pocono, where are they going to go race? They're going to try to race at the Meadowlands for whatever purses they have. And maybe some of them will get shut out because there's this influx. But if they had a steady meet from Thanksgiving to April 1st, there's no competition there. That's where you would make all your money. There used to be winterized racing. There used to be winter series, the presidential series and things like that. But they all got taken away because all the money went to stakes races. Now you have that money pulling away from stakes races, put it back into the purse account, and boom, all of a sudden your product. Stop trying to compete with things that you can't actually compete with.
Well, I was thinking about the series as we were going through all this. That was always the hallmark of the Meadow. My dad would take a stable out to the Meadowlands every winter because they had great series racing on a mile track. It was he would take his usually his 5 best just raceway horses and he'd go out there. A lot of Midwest guys would do that because they didn't Balmore was racing there, but they didn't have the purses that the Meadowlands had and the chance for that series final or anything like that. If you were going to strip your stakes down as we are doing here, where as far as we can tell, it's just a minor decrease in the total purse. I would say you have to bring those series back if you're wanting to truly be competitive. because there was no. I loved the presidential series. Is probably one of. I looked forward to that every winter as a kid. You know, it was always like just these like warhorse free for all pacers that I loved. If you could, I think if you could bring that back and market it right, because I mean, there's Golden Receiver, St. Elmo's Hero. You know, those horses, they just like blew you away in those stake races in the winter. You know, it's 20 degrees and they're going 49 flat. If you could take that race and use these dollars that we're setting aside and actually build those old series up, okay, I'm all on board then. I'm absolutely on board because I think, and not only that, when you are laying out $50,000-$100,000 finals, the drivers will come, which is what this whole thing is about, basically, for Jeff.
Yeah, when you commit, the whole point is to put 10-horse fields on, okay? And like you said, the drivers don't necessarily matter in a way that, like you said,
to me, I mean, it does to him, apparently.
What I'm saying is it doesn't fully affect the handle. There isn't a definitive stat to say one way a good driver makes it a bad handle or bad. You know, they all matter. Good drivers matter to the trainers and the owners. That's who it matters to. It doesn't necessarily matter to the handle.
Yes.
But if you can get these guys to commit, drivers, trainers, owners, to putting on 10-horse fields, that's all we want. We just want 10-horse fields. Doesn't matter the type of actual 10-horse fields. You know, I mean, they could have. I don't think it degrades by having cheap claimers as long as you can bet on them and those competitive claimers are competitive.
No.
As long as the cheap claimers are competitive. That's what really matters. You can't allow, you got to put on competitive fields. But if you build up the culture of being back to where we're the only show in town, we're the best show in town, we have 10-horse fields, and then what that does is it becomes your handle increases every year. We know that the Meadowlands handle in the winter is huge, 3, 4, 5 million, right, per night.
Yeah, they're kind of, effectively one of the only shows in town, basically. You should be. And on a mile track with larger fields, it would be a shame if they weren't the largest.
Jay, if I told you that you went into a store, right? Or you bought a store and during, you let's say you own a Target and you know that during the winter, right? People are flocking to your store because people can flock to your store. They're not doing anything else. And you only open your store. You knew every day that you open the door in Target that you own, every day that you open the door in January, right? People would flock in and you would, at the end of the day, you'd be counting money. You'd just be making it rain on everybody. Why does it make sense that you would close the door 20 days out of the year in January when that is your month to make the most money? How does that make sense? This is the only industry that our maximum time to make money, we don't actually push our product in the time to make the money.
It's funny you mentioned. We have this conversation. I'm a Vernon Downs guy in the summer. I'm there. That's where we stable for the New York Sire Stakes and everything. And I always asked them. I said, why are you going up against everybody in America on Friday and Saturday night? I said, we're a B track. Why don't we take ourselves and go race Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, that range, when there's only a handful of tracks actually racing. And the point that was made to me, and I didn't really, not that I totally agree with it, but I get it. And it matters to, especially at corral tracks, is their mantra is, we don't want to race when nobody is on the grounds. Or there's little confidence that they would be able to bring in an actual on-track fan base during the week. And I disagree kind of way. I think it can be done because, people go out and do things all times of the week. But I get that. I get what, to an extent, although I think it's a little short-sighted with the way that the world is now, that it's very, people stay at home and watch things. But that's the reasoning behind, the counter to our argument here is why would you not race during the week in the winter? Well, it's because the mindset is nobody will come.